Twin Jades of Jiangdong. Chapter 33. Parted by Death. It had been 3 whole nights since Zhou Yu closed his eyes, and in this moment, he was so tired that his consciousness was hazy. Sun Sa was still muttering something, but Zhou Yu could no longer hear it. He held Sun Sa around the waist, curling up by his side, his head pillowed on Sun Sa's arm as he buried his face in Sun Sa's chest. Sun Sa's chest was like a bellows, going hoo-hoo as he breathed. From time to time, there came the crackle of fluid. "Gongjin," Sun Sa said. Zhou Yu replied hazily. "If there comes a day when I leave first, Sun Quan and Jiangdong will be in your care. If he isn't able to do it, then take it over yourself." "That won't happen, don't speak nonsense." Zhou Yu nuzzled a little further into Sun Sa's embrace. "Do you remember, that year when your father passed, one of your relatives came to bully you? I beat him up and sent him packing. What was he called again?" Zhou Yu didn't reply. His breathing had evened out, and he had fallen asleep. "Do you still remember the day that Hua Xiong gave me a whipping? It was you who cured me with your herbal medicines." "Gongjin." Sun Sa looked at the kite hanging on the wall. In his eyes was reflected the 2 children from back then, laughing loudly as they ran along the banks of Lake Chao, holding the string of the kite. The blue sky stretched endlessly above, and the lake and the mountains were the same hue. "Sorry," Sun Sa said quietly. "That day when I kicked you into the lake, you didn't catch a cold, did you?" In the distance, the snow fell harder and harder. With a huala, the woodshed outside collapsed, and the muffled noise sounded like a bang on that snowy night. It startled Zhou Yu awake, and he widened his eyes. "Bafu? Bafu?" Zhou Yu asked, trembling. He reached out a hand, running it up along Sun Sa's chest, stopping below his nostrils. Sun Sa had died. Zhou Yu let out a wail of despair, as if something had broken completely in his heart and turned into powder. The loneliness and iciness of the snowy night came down on him in that moment, snatching the air from his lungs. "Ah!" Zhou Yu knelt on the bed, lifting his face up to the sky. In his arms, he held Sun Sa's body that had long since grown icy cold, and he let out wail after wail. The door burst open, but Zhou Yu, his heart tearing itself apart, his tears long since dried, his voice broken and hoarse, continued to cry out despite his exhaustion. It was then that Lu Su dragged him away. "Bafu!" Zhou Yu shouted, his voice ragged. No matter what, he could not bring himself to believe what was in front of him. Everything seemed like a fantastical dream, and he felt as if there was a huge hand driving iron wedges of suffering deep into his body, causing his soul to feel a terrible pain that he had never encountered before, so great that it felt like his heart was being forcibly torn out of his chest. "Bafu! Sun Lang! Zagong!" The governor's manor was filled with the sounds of sobbing and cries of anguish. "Let me see him, let me have a look at him." Zhou Yu untied the black cloth strip, sobbing freely. He leapt for the bed, hunching over in front of Sun Sa, his entire body trembling. He choked on his tears as he scrabbled, reaching out a hand to touch Sun Sa's face. The flesh on Sun Sa's face had rotted to the bone, and his face was gray. Chunks of dried blood had congealed in his mouth. His forehead was smoothed out peacefully, and his bearing was like that of a sword's. His eyes were tightly shut under his drawn sword brows, and the corners of his mouth were faintly quirked upwards. "Bafu!" Zhou Yu summoned up all his strength for that shout, before he let out a heart-rending wail. In the early morning, a ray of bright light shone over Wu County, its brilliance shining for thousands of zhang. The snowdrifts reflected the golden sunrise, and the bell of the governor's manor tolled 3 times in morning. Sun Sa had returned to the heavens. Shaochun, Daniang, Kuiji, Yuhang, Changsha, Jiangdong, and Jiangnan, the governors of the capitals of each region rushed over post-haste. The manor was in complete chaos. Huang Gai and Zhang Zhao argued loudly, while Lu Meng stood to one side, trying to mediate. As soon as Sun Sa died, the 6 commanderies and 13 counties of Jiangdong were left without a leader, and everything fell into chaos. "Governor Zhou has arrived," the guard in front of the door announced. Zhou Yu had a mourning headband tied around his head, and his white robes flustered as he led Sun Quan into the hall. The advisors all quieted at that. Zhou Yu's face was sheet white, and he sucked in a deep breath, before closing his eyes. "Zongmu, take the seat," Zhou Yu said to Sun Quan. Sun Quan said. "Since I'm telling you to go, then go," Zhou Yu said. Sun Quan's breathing quickened, and with his eyes full of tears, he watched Zhou Yu. Zhang Zhao walked down and took Sun Quan's hand, leading him to Sun Sa's seat and settling him in it. He then backed away to stand by Zhou Yu's side, shoulder to shoulder with him. "Paying my respects to Zigong." Zhou Yu prostrated himself and kowtowed. Sun Quan moved to lift him to his feet, but Zhou Yu lifted a hand, indicating that he should not move. Zhang Zhao knelt as well. "Paying my respects to Zigong," Zhang Zhao said. The literary officials and military commanders in the hall were all silent for a long time. Then Huang Gai lifted the hems of his robes, knelt with one knee to the ground, and clasped his hands together in a fist. "Paying our respects to Zigong." Immediately, all of the people in the hall knelt. Sun Quan bit down harshly on his lip, but could not win out against his tears in the end, and he trembled as he began to cry. A bright sun hung high in the sky, shining on Zhou Yu's back. His shadow stretched forward, and Sun Quan, facing the sunlight, said in a trembling voice, "Everyone, please rise." That day, Zhou Yu burned the kite. Tongues of flame enveloped it, swallowing countless pieces of the past, as if they were growing into the thousands of fiery lotuses of Chibi. The tongues of flame danced under the sky, as if this was a grand rite of sacrifice. The blazing flames filled the world, and with a boom, exploded outwards, setting the horizon on fire so that the sunset itself blazed with flames. Zhou Yu's fingers danced across the 5 strings of his chin, and its song rang out. The towering mountains and the turbulent waters trembled under that onslaught. A mast collapsed, sinking into the water, and the waters of the river reflected the blazing flames above, to the point where it was indistinguishable what was blood, and what was fire. After that, Zhou Yu said, pressing down on the strings, that was how it went. Sun Quan sat still behind Zhou Yu, his hands in his lap. At the same time, the two of them turned to look over the sea of fire. Their warship rocked and shook, and war cries thundered through the air. Without either of them realizing, they had actually spoken for all this time. From the moment that the flames had sprung to life, Zhou Yu had recalled far too many matters of the past. He allowed himself to indulge in the memories, and tears blurred his vision. Sun Quan sat by his side. After listening to Zhou Yu reminisce for so long, he was filled with 1,000 emotions, and was unsure of how to respond. Zhou Yu continued, "Your brother was not a saint, nor was he a hero. He was just him, he was only Sun Bafu." Sun Quan replied, "Actually, in those years, you and him reunited less and parted often." Zhou Yu replied, "I also don't know what evil spell we fell under. We spent no more than 2 or 3 years together, all spaced out, yet I was dead set on him. Evidently, in this world, feelings have no relation to time. Some people, even if they only know each other for a day, are willing to entrust their lives to each other. Some people, even if they've spent their entire lives together, will go their separate ways after the parting of a single day." Sun Quan sighed, before saying, "Gongjinda Ge, in these past few years, you've been like a brother or a father to me." Zhou Yu lifted a hand, saying, "Following you and appointing you as my lord are all because you are doing so with all your might. When you succeeded your brother, you were still young, but you acted cautiously and prudently for all matters. You had the courage to shoulder the consequences for your actions, and you listened to the advice of others. In that, you have done better than your brother. I still remember that day when So Sa's troops headed south. That day, So Sa's declaration of war arrived in Jiangdong. As of now, I command an army that is 800,000. With this, I declare war against the commander of Wu. After the Battle of Guandu, Liu Bei had entered Jingzhou and obtained Liu Biao's writ of succession, thus gaining Jingzhou as his territory. But because Liu Biao's son had surrendered to So Sa, Liu Bei had no choice but to flee from Dangyang with the citizens. The 100,000 citizens of Jingzhou had followed Liu Bei, taking their first steps on what would be a long and arduous journey. When they received a letter from Zhao Yun, 8 years had passed since Sun Sa's death. The dust of the past had settled, as if a lifetime had passed. The region of Jiangdong had long since collapsed into chaos. So Sa's 830,000 strong army headed south through Jingzhou, his men pressing along the Changjiang. He urged Sun Quan to surrender, or his army would crush Jiangzhou, not leaving a single person alive. Even Wu Commandery and Jiayi were caught up in this. The Jiangdong troops numbered no more than 70,000, and they were scattered across the counties and commanderies of the region and could not be mobilized immediately. Zigong. Zhang Zhao said. You don't understand the situation in full. North of Zhongling and Xiaka, all the way to Xiangyang, So Sa's troops have been unstoppable. Liu Biao's defeat is fresh, and Chai Mao and Zhang Sun have surrendered to the Cao as well. Who doesn't understand the situation? Zhou Yu asked darkly. Zhou Yu walked into the hall. His voice had sounded out before he even arrived in person. With 5 words, he had harshly and mercilessly interrupted what Zhang Zhao was saying. All the people in the hall lifted their heads to look at Zhou Yu. This was the first time that he had acted so harshly to the literary officials. In reality, ever since Sun Sa had passed away 8 years ago from his illness, basically no one had shared the same audience hall with Zhou Yu. There were a great number of literary officials and military commanders under the King of Wu's command, but only Zhou Yu kept himself distant. When he reappeared, Zhou Yu wore the red-tasseled helmet of a military commander, and was clad in silver chainmail and armor. His armored boots had coiling jiao on them, and his cloak fluttered in the twilight wind. His hands were clasped behind his back, his feet apart, as he stood in the middle of the hall. The divine Chaijun sword was belted at his waist, and the pommel sparkled with the remaining light of the sunset. Everyone else had grown accustomed to the Zhou Yu clad in officials' robes, and rarely saw the Zhou Yu in armor. Even Sun Quan could not find a single memory of Zhou Yu wearing armor. After his older brother Sun Sa had died, Zhou Yu had never touched the Chaijun sword again. Zhou Yu's visage had grown even more mature, but it had not grown old, nor had it grown dispirited or dejected. After the wear of years, it had slowly settled, and he had the indomitable air of a great general who had grown tough after experiencing countless changes. He stood like a mountain or a wall in the middle of the hall. How many men do we have? Zhou Yu asked. We only have the numbers for the foot soldiers. How many naval troops does the governor have? Sun Quan asked Zhou Yu from 10 paces distant, amidst the hall filled with clamor. 22,000 naval troops, Zhou Yu said. 73 large warships, 120 medium ones, and 1,008 small ships. How are the foot soldiers? The hall quieted at that, and Zhou Yu replied, it is impossible to mobilize the troops in the surrounding cities. Yizhu is in the middle of quelling a rebellion, and that situation may change at any moment, so I can only give you 10,000 foot soldiers. 32,000. Zhou Yu paced a few steps in the hall. The Cao troops are rumored to number 830,000. Zhang Zhao replied. Governor Zhou, please reconsider this battle. Zhou Yu nodded but did not speak, and the group of literary officials turned to look at Lu Su. No need to keep looking, Zhou Yu said. It was Lu Zijing who told me to come back. Then, as if he was wholly unconcerned, Zhou Yu said, his eyes like still water, Lu Zijing has long since known that you all would surrender, so he acted first to summon me back. As soon as the sentence was spoken, a hubbub rose in the hall. Zhang Zhao raged, "Governor Zhou, what accusations are these? Are you saying that only with you here will Jiangdong be kept whole, while we are all here selling out our lord for the sake of glory?" Zhou Yu was silent for a moment, before he took a step forward. Sun Quan had never felt that Zhou Yu was so physically imposing, as if as soon as he sat down in front of him, he had no choice but to look admiringly upon the senior who had been both teacher and father to him. Time flowed backwards to the past, and he once again became that child. "Since you was young, I have followed the Sun family," Zhou Yu intoned. "As of now, I am 34 years of age. I first met Bafu in Shu County, and aside from General Huang Gai, General Cheng Pu, and General Zhu Ji, of everyone gathered here, I have been with Zigong the longest." As soon as Zhou Yu listed out his record of service, the hall fell deathly silent. Even Huang Gai and the rest of them seemed to be unable to speak, because after all, back then when Sun Jian had died, the only person that had stayed with Sun Sa was Zhou Yu. "After our previous lord passed, Zhongmu succeeded his position," Zhou Yu said, turning his head to look at Zhang Zhao. "Back then, Lord Zhang and I were both loyal to Zigong, and we vowed to protect Jiangdong and establish a new foundation." "Gongjin does not dissent with Zibuxiang's thoughts," Zhou Yu said solemnly, before clasping his hands together. "Back then, when Bafu was still alive, he always went to Zhang Zhao for internal affairs he could not decide on, and to Zhou Yu for external affairs. For Wu Commandery and Jiangdong to be how they are today, Zibuxiang's invaluable support cannot be disregarded." Zhang Zhao grunted coldly, and it was only with this that his expression grew a little more congenial. Right after, Zhou Yu let out a long breath, before taking a seat at Sun Quan's table, facing him, saying, "Let's instead talk about if it's really time to surrender this foundation we built to someone else without a fight." Huang Gai chuckled coldly. Surrender without a fight? Even if he were Lu Bu reincarnated on this earth, he still tasted defeat at General Sun's hands, and must not be allowed to take even a single chunk of Jiangdong. When Huang Gai finished speaking, he picked up an arrow, and with the tip pointing upwards, stuck it in the kettle on Sun Quan's table. "Jiangdong's natural defenses have already been lost, and it is no longer a region that is easy to guard and hard to conquer," Zhang Hong said, letting out a sigh. "There is a wide gap between our forces and our enemies, and with the not yet 30,000 naval troops under our command, even if we are to fight only the 100,000 strong navy of Jingzhou, that would be an extremely foolish undertaking." Zhang Hong also pulled out an arrow, and with the arrowhead pointed down, he stuck it into a copper kettle. Cheng Pu had drunk some wine, and with a casual toss, he sent the arrow into the kettle. The arrowhead was pointed upwards, and it clanged. In the Battle of Zhuolu, the hegemon king of Chu led 20,000 sons of Jiangdong in battle, having cut off all means of retreat, and managed to clinch a decisive victory against the numerically advantageous Jin troops, Cheng Pu said coldly. "How can victory or defeat in a battle be determined by numbers?" Chu Kaojin retrieved an arrow and slowly walked over, standing in front of Sun Quan, spreading his arms. "Zigong. Generals," Chu Kaojin continued. "There is a saying that those who gain the hearts of the people will gain the world. As the Prime Minister of the Han Dynasty, So Sa has the support of the Emperor in declaring whether or not someone becomes a minister. The region of Jiangdong, though it was the foundation passed down from General Polu back in the day, at the root of it, still belongs to whence it came, and Zigong is still a vassal of the Han state." Chu Kaojin placed the arrow into the kettle, the tip pointed downwards, and he continued earnestly, "Now, since So Sa has come to carry out the Emperor's orders, Jiangdong, by reason, is a vassal of the Han state. By sentiment, remaining loyal to the Han royal line is our duty. Since both sentiment and reason agree, I would ask that Zigong reconsider." Han Dang chuckled coldly. "What Prime Minister of the Han state? He is no more than a thief who has usurped the throne. He has used the Emperor for many years, Why do you think the capital is still in Luoyang? Why has he not returned the power of rule to the emperor? With a wave of his hand, Han Dang tossed his arrow into the kettle. The clanks that it let out took a long time to die down. Very good. Zhang Qin said coldly. If the emperor were to come personally, there is still room for deliberation. The thief Cao has usurped the Han throne, so no matter what, we must not surrender. Another arrow shaft entered the kettle. Lu Fan said, every general has been so willing to go to war, but do you know how this battle, which will be fought for no rhyme or reason, will devastate the people of this region? Lu Fan's arrow entered the kettle, the feathers pointing upwards. Yu Fan added, as Sun Tzu says, the best method is to break the enemy's forces with strategy, and the second is to conquer through diplomacy. Even if So Sa gains Jiangdong, how will he rule over it? Yu Fan walked to Sun Quan's table, placing the arrow, tip down, into the kettle, before adding solemnly, even if we are to surrender, that is no more than exchanging our current titles for that of a Han vassal. What difference does that make with how things are currently? If So Sa wishes to govern Wu, he must use the people of Wu to do so. Exactly, Zhang Zhao said. This will not only ensure the lives of the citizens of Jiangdong, but will also result in almost no losses. Zigong, please reconsider. Zhang Zhao placed the last arrow in his hand into the kettle. The hall was silent, before Zhu Ji finally opened his mouth to speak. I have followed General Polu for decades. Those generals that had accompanied Sun Jian back in the day were almost all at the age where the hair at their temples had been touched with frost. Zhou Yu looked up at Zhu Ji. Back in the day, when General Polu sent his troops to Changsha, Zhu Ji said, forcefully and with gravitas, let me ask every one of you here, if our previous lord was here, would he surrender today, or not? Before his words even finished echoing, Zhu Ji placed his arrow in the kettle. Lu Su rose as well and said, if my Eastern Wu surrenders today, it will not be named as a vassal, but will rather be the destruction of our country. Lu Su cast his arrow. Zhou Yu held the last arrow in his hand, standing in front of Sun Quan, lost in thought. Gongjin, Sun Quan said. Zhou Yu held his arrow, looking at the two copper pots on the table. Say, if your brother was here today, Zhou Yu said slowly, his voice very quiet. Would he surrender, or would he not? Sun Quan did not reply. Zhou Yu was silent for a long time, before he said, after a while, I actually forgot what he looked like. How can it be that I can't recall what he looked like? Do you all still remember what Bafu looked like? Zhou Yu asked the literary officials present. Zhang Zhao sucked in a deep breath, before replying loftily, Bafu, when he was alive, liked to laugh. Zhou Yu smiled, but that smile held a tinge of grief about it. It's been 9 years, Zhu Ji said. It's been 9 years, Zhou Yu echoed, his voice hoarse. I've even forgotten what he looked like. You've truly forgotten? Sun Quan asked. Zhou Yu did not reply. He put down his arrow, turned, and left. Huang Gai and the rest stood and took their leave, leaving behind Sun Quan at his desk, with 2 copper kettles in front of him. One was filled with the arrow shafts of the literary officials, the feathers facing out, while the other was filled with the arrow shafts of the military commanders, flashing with a sharp, cold light. The sunset looked as red as blood as it shone off the turbulent waters of the river. Zhou Yu, his martial robes fluttering in the wind, stood on the banks. Are you still undecided? Xiao Jiao asked, handing a robe to Zhou Yu. I heard them say that today, in front of Zigong, you said that you couldn't even remember what Sun Lang looked like anymore. Zhou Yu replied, I still remember. In these past few years, how could I have forgotten for even a single day? I simply do not know which one is him. Xiao Jiao sighed, before asking gently, Zhou Lang, will it come to a battle? You should go back first, Zhou Yu said. The night wind is chilly. Sun Quan walked towards them, the wind at his back. Zhou Yu and Xiao Jiao turned their heads at the same time, watching his lonely silhouette along the bank of the river. "I'll go warm some wine for you too." Xiao Jiao knew that Zhou Yu and Sun Quan had things to discuss. When Sun Quan clambered up onto the high ground near the river bank, the two of them did not say a single word to the other. "You no longer play the qin," Sun Quan remarked. "No one is there to listen," Zhou Yu replied. The two of them stood side by side. Zhou Yu added, "You're almost taller than your brother was back then." Sun Quan replied, "If his spirit still lingers in the underworld, he's definitely cursing me out for being a coward." "He won't curse you," Zhou Yu said. "He would simply find it a pity. After all, if you surrender, we'll all be treated as vassals of the Han Emperor, but you, Zigong, will not be a vassal. If you are willing to sacrifice yourself for the sake of Eastern Wu, I will salute you. If you wish to fight, I will follow you." Sun Quan immediately froze, startled. Zhou Yu avoided Sun Quan's gaze, looking out over the surging waters of the river. For a time, Sun Quan was silent. Zhou Yu had spoken truly. If Jiangdong were to surrender, all of the literary and military officials would become vassals of the Han Emperor, but Sun Quan would never be able to keep the position that he had today. "If you have already decided, then go back," Zhou Yu said, inclining his head slightly. "If you wish to fight, then come with me." In this very last moment, Sun Quan finally steeled his heart. Zhou Yu, however, no longer paid him any attention, instead turning and walking into the room. Xiao Jiao was warming some wine, and Zhou Yu sat down in front of the table as Sun Quan came after him. A gentle breeze lifted the sheer curtains, and a person's silhouette seemed to pass by outside the curtains. Zhou Yu lifted his head to look. Their thoughts seemed to intersect in that single moment, as if there was someone standing there, saying to him, "Gongjin, I'm leaving Sun Quan and Jiangdong in your care. What are our chances of winning?" Sun Quan asked. "Make your decision first," Zhou Yu said solemnly, before taking the warmed wine that Xiao Jiao had brought over. Sun Quan quaffed it all in one go, before lifting his head to look at Zhou Yu. He knew that Zhou Yu had decided to burn all his bridges with this battle, but there were some things that he still couldn't help but ask. "If we lose?" Sun Quan asked. Zhou Yu replied as lightly as the breeze, "We'll throw ourselves in the river for our crimes and go keep your brother company." Xiao Jiao acted as if she hadn't heard a single thing, and she filled Sun Quan's wine cup again unbidden, before rising and leaving. "Fight," Sun Quan finally gently spat out a single word. "If we are to fight," Zhou Yu said, still as solemn as he had been, "we have 5 points in our favor that will ensure our victory. The first, the Cao troops have traveled from afar, and the long and arduous journey will have exhausted them. The weather is cold, and their supplies are running low. Their riders and their foot soldiers are not used to naval battles, and even if they are 800,000 strong, their efforts are in vain. As for our side, we simply have to wait until they tire themselves out. The second, the northerners are not used to the water and soil of this land, and they will grow seasick due to the turbulence of the boats, so illness will abound. The third, So Sa has no navy. The generals Cai Mao and Zhang Yun have 70,000 men under their command, but not all their men will be loyal. The fourth, Han Sui is more than enough to hassle So Sa's rear guard. The fifth, Liu Bei has headed south and entered Gong'an. We still have allied troops with us." Zhou Yu placed his palm in front of Sun Quan, his 5 fingers spread out. As he finished, "It is these 5 points that guarantee our victory. With our 30,000 experienced troops, that is more than enough to break through Cao Ca's defenses, but we must investigate first." Lu Su walked in and rolled up his sleeves, smiling. "Zigong, this cup of wine that you drank was mine." Sun Quan said, "Sit, Zijing. I've understood, this is something that you two have long since thought out." "It is not," Zhou Yu replied. "We are simply aligned in our thoughts on this. Come, Zigong. Zhou Yu personally poured out 3 cups of wine. The 3 of them drank, and Lu Su wiped the corner of his mouth, before saying, Liu Bei's large army is currently waiting to ford the river at Xiaka. He sent a letter. Bring him here, Sun Quan said, rising to his feet. I will make the arrangements. It wasn't until this moment that Zhou Yu finally let out a breath in relief, and he said, then I will leave Zhang Zhao and the rest for Zigong to handle. Without another word, Sun Quan made the arrangements that very night. Zhou Yu stood on the bank of the river, tying a cloth strip to Fiiu's claws. Fiiu let out a long screech, before it flew over the vast waters of the river, heading north. End chapter. Twin Jades of Jiangdong. Chapter 34. Breaking through. The night sky stretched endlessly above, and men and horses moved along the banks of the river. Gan Ning brought Sun Quan's command tally with him, and from this night on, the entirety of Jiangdong would treat Zhou Yu's military commands as their highest priority. Has the pier been cleared out? Zhou Yu asked. Gan Ning replied, General Zhu Ji and General Cheng Pu have already made the arrangements, and Han Dang is leading his men along the land route to Zhongling. Lu Su had changed into armor, and he led his troops over, saying, I'll be leaving now. I'll go with you, Zhou Yu said. You must not. Gan Ning's and Lu Su's expressions changed at the same time. Lu Su protested, you are the commander of the 3 armies. How can you head into danger so readily? I'm worried, Zhou Yu said, lifting his head to look towards the northern bank, hidden in the darkness across the Changjiang. Even now, Fiiu has yet to return. Who did you send Fiiu to deliver a letter to? Lu Su asked, frowning. Do we have a spy in the Cao camp? Zhou Yu flicked his sleeve, and in his deep-set eyes was reflected the forest of torches along the shore. Extinguish the light sources, Zhou Yu ordered. Everyone on the boats. The soldiers extinguished their torches, boarding the ships on the cold pier. In a single moment, hundreds of small boats left the shore, heading forward through the icy wind and the surging waves towards the dark future. The silver river above their heads blanketed the sky above and filled the water below them. The waters of the Changjiang flowed past ceaselessly, heading onwards without end. Gan Ning, with oar in hand, pulled it across the water, and the little boat shot forward as if it was flying. Zhou Yu was wrapped in a long robe, but he coughed several times. Lu Su said, go back into the berth and rest. Zhou Yu hunched over and returned to the berth. Despite it being the third 9-day period after the winter solstice, Gan Ning had his upper body bared, and his muscles were lean and defined. The boat that the commanders were on had pulled far ahead, and the distance between them and the little boats increased as they headed upstream, with the wind at their backs. A moment later, the sound of a cheen rang out, echoing across the sky and the earth. Right after that, a flowing melody began to play, fast at times and slow at others. All 7 strings then sounded at once, as if some message was being sent to those on the other bank of the river. Gan Ning smiled roguishly, turning his head back to look into the berth, but just as he was about to speak, Lu Su gestured for him to listen. From the opposite bank came the faint sound of a flute, which pierced through the air, seeming to enhance the melody from Zhou Yu's cheen. The waters of the river reflected the numerous stars above, and they winked and danced as the 2 melodies, almost imperceptibly, entwined and grew, soaring into the air. The flute's sound held a faint trace of a question, as well as a hint of anticipation. At that, Zhou Yu seemed to feel a hint of unhappiness, and the cheen strummed loudly, shaking off the flute from the opposite bank. That flute's melody slowly quieted, before finally returning to the nothingness it came from. Gan Ning had heard that exchange as well, and he asked Lu Su, how many people are on the opposite bank? Lu Su replied, if we count them all, at least 100,000, but less than 200,000 soldiers. Gan Ning replied, if these 100,000 men are to all withdraw to eastern Wu, Zigong will have quite the headache to deal with. That depends on them, Lu Su said. The reason we've come this time is nothing more than escorting a messenger over. If they can have a fruitful discussion, there is still hope. The water splashed gently, and the sound of Zhou Yu's chin ended with an almost imperceptible vibrato. The soldiers along the bank came forward and grabbed the ropes of the little boat, and for a time, hundreds of light boats docked quietly on the shore. 80,000 commoners were waiting on the shore, and the 20,000 soldiers were resting where they sat. Torches rose in a forest, as numerous as the stars in the sky above, and they were a majestic sight to behold. Liu Bei brought a group of his subordinates over to receive them. As soon as Lu Su set foot on the shore, Liu Bei knelt right then and there, and Lu Su was greatly startled as he hurried forward to raise him to his feet. "Royal uncle, please don't shorten our lifespans like this," Lu Su hurriedly said. Liu Bei let out a long breath. "Bei is kneeling for the sake of the 10,000 commoners on the northern shore. I beg that the Marquis of Wu treat them with compassion." The soldiers all knelt as well. Lu Su replied, "Everyone, please rise quickly. Zigong has sent me and General Gang here precisely for the sake of discussing countermeasures with the royal uncle. Tonight, the Marquis of Wu has gathered my Jiangdong's literary officials and military commanders for an urgent meeting, to figure out how to defeat the Southeast's navy," Lu Su said to the gathered group. "Who will come with me?" Everyone fell silent, because none of them had thought that Lu Su would propose such a thing. If Sun Quan decided to detain them, then hand them over to So Sa and claim the credit, that would be a blow too devastating to endure. Liu Bei smiled, before saying, "I'll go. Which generals wish to ford the river with me?" "Zigong, please wait," a young man said, stepping forward and cupping his hands in Lu Su's direction. "Liang is willing to go." It was only then that Zhou Yu finally emerged. Almost no one noticed him, and only Chu Liang's gaze turned towards him. Zhou Yu and Lu Su exchanged a glance, and Chu Liang keenly noticed that glance. "This individual is," Chu Liang trailed off. Zhou Yu waved a hand and stepped onto the shore, asking, "You are the younger brother of Lord Chu Jin?" Chu Liang nodded. Zhou Yu glanced at Lu Su again, and Lu Su nodded. "Since that is the case, then Kongming Xianzhen, please come with me to see the Marquis of Wu." "Where is Zhao Zilong?" Zhou Yu asked. Liu Bei sighed, before inquiring, "This good sir is." "Zhao Zilong has not been seen," another powerfully built man, with a beard of full 3 chi long and a majestic aura about him, said. "Ever since the Battle of Dangyang, he has gone missing." "Who was the marshal of the Cao troops at Dangyang?" Zhou Yu asked, knowing that this person was probably Guan Yu. "So Sa, Xia En, and the likes." Guan Yu said darkly, letting out a cold scoff. 3 days before that, they retreated out of Changban, and Zhao Yun left without bidding farewell. "In the blink of an eye, they're about to chase us all the way to Xiaka, and here your Eastern Wu is being all unbothered." "Exactly," another powerfully built dark-faced man said. "Once the Cao troops come for us, motherfuckers, your family's Zigong won't need to send any boats to pick us up. We might as well all huddle up together and die." "Suand," Liu Bei admonished, his expression changing. "You must not babble foolishly. Zilong had no choice but to leave me behind." Zhou Yu basically understood. Fi Yu hadn't passed along the message, probably because Zhao Yun was trapped in their enemy's lines. What they didn't know was how much more time they had until Cao Sa got to where they were. "Has So Pi come?" Zhou Yu asked. No one could answer that, and even Lu Su didn't understand why Zhou Yu was asking such a question. When Zhou Yu saw their reactions, he ordered the soldiers to bring horses over, and after counting out the troops, said, "I'll be leaving now. Zijing, I'll be depending on you to report back to Zigong." Lu Su cupped his hands at Zhou Yu. Zhou Yu, leading 200 cavalrymen, left the crossing point at Gong'an, heading all the way north. In the winter of the 13th year of Jianan, Dangyang, the slopes of Changban. Thousands of soldiers and horses turned into a wave that surged across the battlefield awash in the last light of the day. Zhao Yun, with Lu Shan in his arms, kicked his horse into a gallop, directing Liu Bei's Dai horse in a charge towards the south. "Take a strike from my sword." Someone rushed out from the line. The setting sun shone with its evening glow, and Zhao Yun's white armor was splattered with fresh blood, its coppery scent pungently nauseating. He, astride his lone steed, charged out of the encirclement like a war god. Ziahan led his men in a charge, intent on killing him, but Zhao Yun turned back and sent his spear flying back. There was a huge clang, and Ziahan's brawn was far inferior to Zhao Yun's. Using the advantage that a long spear possessed, Zhao Yun's first strike struck the Qinghong sword in Ziahan's hand, before he turned back and let out an enraged roar. Ziahan had not expected that Zhao Yun would actually turn and come charging back, and in that brief moment's delay, Zhao Yun stabbed forward with his spear. Ziahan and his horse were both sent flying. His long sword flashed through the air, turning in circles. Zhao Yun rushed forward, and with a move, grabbed the hilt of the sword. "Thanks!" Zhao Yun shouted. A loud uproar broke out amongst the Cao troops. They had never seen such a provocation before, and the tens of thousands of men charged at once, chasing behind Zhao Yun. The Dailu horse galloped furiously, as if it knew that if it slowed even a step, the little master in Zhao Yun's arms would be hacked into 1,000 pieces. Arrows fell like rain, and in the distance came the beat of the battle drums. Do, 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 3 times. The drums stopped, and Zhou Yu finally appeared, leading reinforcements. They, however, found themselves halted above a cliff, and there was no way for the troops to descend. In that instant, thousands of sharp arrows rose up from the ground, drawing out arcs in the air as they flew towards the mountains. Countless arrows shot into the sky, before landing back on the ground, narrowly missing piercing through Zhao Yun and pinning his corpse to the ground. "Fire!" Zhou Yu shouted. Shua 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 shua, and 4 arrows shot out at the same time, taking a strip of white silk with them as they flew over the mountain stream, blocking the arrows and opening up a path. "We'll provide you with backup along the southern road," Zhou Yu said. "Go. Someone else is coming." From high up above, So Sa looked down, murmuring, "Who is it this time?" "Reinforcements from eastern Wu." So P stood at his side. Many years later, this tall, willowy youth had lost the childish air he had once upon a time, and the arrogance and bossiness in his face had turned into 2 sword brows and a gaze that could make people swallow their words. He was like a sharp sword that had been drawn out of its sheath. "Perhaps it is Liu Bei's troops," So P said. "The way this child sees it, it'd be better to stop the pursuit." So Sa chuckled. "Lu Suand is the most afraid of death. He will not leave and return. Think about it, he can even throw away his wife and child without a care to run away with his tail tucked between his legs. Why would he come hacking his way back for the sake of a mere commander?" So P held his tongue. So Sa continued, "Disregard all consequences. We must capture this man and bring him back. Zhao Zilong is truly a fierce general." So P reached back for the sword on his back, and So Sa continued, "What do you think you're doing?" "This child will go cross swords with him," So P replied, before leaping off the platform and landing on a horse. He rode So Sa's beloved horse, Zhuawang Fadian, galloping forth. The sky darkened, and Zhao Yun crossed the mountain stream outside the city of Dangyang. For a moment, he found himself lost, but behind him, more soldiers came after him in pursuit. He hid himself in the darkness, before bending over and drinking a little water from the stream. After he was done, he climbed back onto the horse, looking all around him. Fiyu came flapping towards him, and Zhao Yun looked up, following the gerfalcon. A wild wind gusted over the mountain stream, bringing with it the angered howl of nature. "You shouldn't have come back, Zilongda Ge." If Feiyu had not come and gone, I wouldn't even have been able to find your trail. Sopi, astride Shuangbi, reined the horse to a stop in front of the mountain stream. Zhao Yun reined Dailu to a stop, remaining silent. Let me pass, Zhao Yun said. You won't be able to leave, Sopi said. Come back with me, and I swear on my life that my father will not kill you. Zhao Yun suddenly bellowed angrily, you and I both have our respective masters. There is no need to say such words, and I will never surrender to the Cao, unless you carry my head to him. With that, Zhao Yun actually charged right at Cao Pi. Their two war horses charged towards each other like a gale, almost crashing head-on. Shuangbi and Dailu let out long whinnies at the same time, which rang out in the darkness. Sopi and Zhao Yun pulled out their swords at the same time. Zhao Yun struck, and Sopi parried. The two swords collided, sending out a clear clang of metal that echoed through the mountains. Sparks flew in every direction, and in that short moment, the two of them had already struck several times at each other. Zhao Yun's Qinghong sword struck out, and Sopi could not dodge. The tip of the sword traced out an arc of light through the cold night, but Zhao Yun had already brushed right past him. How many times have I taught you, Zhao Yun said, reining his horse to a stop, his back to Sopi, when you are guarding an opening, you must give up the reins and use your legs to control your horse. With a shua, several strands of Cao Pi's hair detached, flying through the air. Why did you not kill me? Sopi looked at Zhao Yun from behind. Just now, that sword strike only needed to press a few con closer for it to strike the artery at his neck. The Qinghong sword sliced through metal like it was mud, and with a light slice, it would have been able to take his life. I'm leaving, Zhao Yun said solemnly, turning his head. You've grown taller, and you have strength in your arms now. Zilongda Ge hopes that your military fortune will flourish, Xia. Young master, the lead commander said. What should we do? Retreat. Sopi fell silent for a long time, before saying, give chase. Zhao Yun charged away from the mountain stream, entering the road that led from Danyang towards Xiaka. Thousands of Cao troops were still chasing after him, their torches rising behind him, following behind Cao Pi as they pursued him. The speed of the horse under Zhao Yun grew slower and slower. Dailu had already kept him company for 2 days and nights without closing its eyes, and foam came out of its mouth, as if its strength could not keep up with its will. As they charged along, Sopi drew a bow and pointed it at Zhao Yun's warhorse, but at the very last moment, a bird's screech pierced through the air. Feiyu cried as it shot forward like lightning. Sopi let out a loud shout as it pecked the back of his hand, fresh blood pouring forth from the wound. His subordinates immediately panicked, but Feiyu had vanished without a trace. Zhou Yu led his cavalry hurriedly from the mountain path, and he reached back and shot an arrow, shooting the foremost soldier off his horse. Gongjin! Zhao Yun said. Zhou Yu turned his horse horizontally before the mountain, and thousands of Cao troops halted, forming a dense defense around Cao Pi. But from the open plains in front of the mountain, from the forest, from the wilderness all around them came the light of torches, and it looked as if there were tens of thousands of men there. It was only then that Cao Pi realized he had fallen into a trap. You've grown up, Zion, Zhou Yu said solemnly, before pulling out the Chaijun sword in his belt and waved it slightly. Sopi narrowed his eyes and dodged the flash of moonlight that it reflected. It's been a long time, Sopi said, Gongjin de Ge. Sun Quan has also grown up, Zhou Yu said. When you have the time, come to Eastern Wu to reminisce on the past. I'll be taking this man, and if you insist on continuing with your pursuit and end up in the Lu army's formation, don't blame your Gongjin de Ge for being unable to rescue you from that. Zhao Yun raised his sword, turning his horse to block off the path, shoulder to shoulder with Zhou Yu. Go back, Zhao Yun said. We will fight again in the future. Sopi smiled and let out a whistle, but the whistle seemed to contain with it a tingle of some odd intent. This whistle, which seemed to contain no good intent, caused the two armies, which had been staring each other down, and even Zhao Yun, much awkwardness. "Oh well," So P drawled. "Once we've conquered Jiangdong, we'll drink some wine then and reminisce on the past." And with that, So P gave the order to return to camp. It was only after the Cao troops retreated that Zhou Yu let out a breath and said to Zhao Yun, "Lord Suand is waiting for you in Xiaka." Zhao Yun protested, "Bringing along so many men solely for the sake of saving me alone." "Gongjin, you wouldn't." "I purposefully set up a deceptive array," Zhou Yu replied. "When So P came after you with his men, I had already set up torches beforehand. There's only 200 soldiers here. I'm leaving." "Where are you going?" Zhao Yun called out distantly. "I'll be waiting for you back in Jiangdong," Zhou Yu shouted back. After their farewell on the slopes of Changban, Zhou Yu led his troops swiftly back to the river bank, some 10 miles from Gongan. Lu Meng's fleet had already been waiting to pick them up on the pier, and when Zhou Yu, with Fei Yu, crossed the river, the sky was already faintly lightening. "Where is Zigong?" Zhou Yu asked as soon as he stepped off the boat. Lu Meng had already led his horse over, and said, "Chu Liang is currently in a debate with the literary officials. Zigong wants you to head there swiftly. The thief So has millions of troops at his command." When Zhou Yu hurried to Sun Quan's manor and was about to walk in, Chu Liang's voice was the one that was currently issuing from the hall. At that, Zhou Yu stopped and hovered outside to listen quietly. "So, what if he has millions?" Chu Liang's arrogant voice replied from inside. Zhou Yu glanced at Lu Meng, before waving his hand slightly. The two of them stood outside the hall to listen. "Where are Cao Cao's troops coming from?" "They are nothing more than Yuan Shao's defeated troops and Lu Biao's remnants that he's taken into his own ranks. Such a motley crew is not enough to strike fear into me." Yu Fan's voice chuckled coldly. "Not enough to strike fear into you? Lu Yizhou's men number in the mere thousands, and he has abandoned Jingzhou to its fate as he fled to Xiaka. The only way forward is for his entire army to pitch themselves in the river, and yet you say this is not enough to strike fear into you." Chu Liang replied, as light as can be, "It is exactly because of this that my family's Zigong would rather die than surrender, and he is truly unafraid. Whether or not the Marquis of Wu is afraid will depend on the individuals here. I imagine that the Marquis of Wu was not afraid initially, but as you all have spoken extensively on this, he has probably grown afraid." When he heard that, Zhou Yu quietly said to Lu Meng, "We must keep this person here. We cannot let him leave." Lu Meng nodded, and with his orders, went forth to make the arrangements. For a moment, the expressions of the officials in the hall were indescribably nasty to look at. No one dared to reply, all of them looking to Sun Quan. Sun Quan was so angered that he couldn't stop trembling. It was then that Zhou Yu walked into the hall, and everyone bowed while seated to greet him. Zhou Yu waved a hand in return, returning their greeting. When Chu Liang saw this, and with his knowledge that only two people in Jiangdong, Zhou Yu and Zhang Zhao, did not have to greet the Marquis of Wu upon seeing him, he immediately guessed at Zhou Yu's identity. Zhou Yu climbed up the steps, taking a seat to Sun Quan's right, pressing one hand down on Sun Quan's shoulder. "From what you've seen," Zhou Yu said, "how many troops does So Ca have?" Chu Liang smiled and replied, "In total, 1,500,000. Sun Quan chuckled coldly. "The more Kongming Xianzhen says, the further he strays. You wouldn't happen to be trying to deceive us now, would you?" Chu Liang ignored the expression Lu Su had on, and he smiled as he replied, "I do not exaggerate. For Lu Yizhou's army to fight against the Cao troops is like striking an egg against a rock." Zhou Yu then asked, "Since he has 1,500,000 men, why has Lu Yizhou not surrendered yet?" Chu Liang replied mildly, "Soldiers can be killed but must not be humiliated. With Tianheng and his 500 followers, and Jing Kei's failed assassination, both chose to die rather than suffer humiliation. My family's Zigong acts from benevolence, and upholds what is moral, so he would rather die than suffer humiliation. As the Marquis of Wu takes good care of his people, I dare not delude myself into thinking that he will be willing to drag Jiangdong into the mess of battle. Sun Quan finally grew enraged at this, and he reached back and tugged, drawing the sword belted at Zhou Yu's waist out of its sheath. He swung it down at a corner of the table, and immediately the table split into two. Whoever speaks of surrender again will end up like this table. Sun Quan then rose and glanced over the entire hall of advisors. No one dared to make a sound. After noon, Sun Quan sat in the hall, which was filled with a light breeze that swept through it. His hands were pressed against his knees, and he was silent. Kongming and I discussed, Zhou Yu said, coming in. Zijing has also finished his investigation. There is no one in Eastern Wu that is secretly communicating with anyone in the Cao camp. Sun Quan nodded, before asking, have Lu Suan's citizens crossed the river already? Zhou Yu replied, the boats have already been sent out to take them, and I will personally oversee that. Sun Quan let out a long breath, before saying, Gongjinda Ge. Sun Quan rose, walking to the window that overlooked the river, staring out over the vast river. Do you think that someone will remember this battle, 100 years, 1,000 years later? Sun Quan asked, turning back around. When that time comes, will Jiangdong still exist? Yu the Great divided the land into 9 zhou and crafted the 9 ding. The Emperor of Qin united the 6 states. King Xiang and the founder of the Han dynasty fought for control of the world, Zhou Yu said solemnly. Division and reunification have always been a part of the natural order of things. Battles where the few have won against the many are not non-existent, they are merely few. Until the last second, no one can determine victory and defeat, Zhou Yu continued. Just like how, without putting on the lid to the coffin, there is no way to judge the measure of a man. But this great battle, no matter the rise and fall of future generations, will never be forgotten. Come with me for a walk, don't stand around here and daydream. End chapter.